In this reading of Psalm 29, since the word Adonai may be unfamiliar to you, let me explain that the writers of the Hebrew Bible used Adonai as a way to refer to the holy, sacred name of God. For me, this psalm is particularly reassuring because the awesomeness of God being present everywhere will bring us strength and peace. We need this reassurance now during these unsettled times. And now, Psalm 29. Give glory to Adonai, you heavenly court. Give Adonai glory and strength. Give forth the glory that God's name deserves, and worship Adonai in the splendor of holiness. The voice of Adonai resounds over the waters. The God of glory thunders over the raging seas. God's voice is powerful. God's voice is full of majesty. The voice of Adonai snaps the cedars, shatters the cedars of Lebanon. It makes Lebanon skip like a calf, and Sirion like a young wild ox. The voice of Adonai strikes with bolts of lightning. The voice of Adonai shakes the wilderness of Kadesh. The voice of God twists the oaks and strips the forests bare. And in God's temple, all cry glory. Adonai sits in judgment over the flood. Adonai is its ruler forever. Give strength to your people, Adonai. Bless your people with peace.
Richard Brooksfort Colligan, who composed our theme song for this worship series, offers a little background about today's psalm and his musical interpretation. It has a simple chorus that you can catch on to quickly, and I hope you'll sing along with us.
The song is called Awe and Wonder, and it's from Psalm 29. It's an interesting psalm. It seems to describe God's voice as coming in the midst of a storm, a huge storm, a violent storm, in the midst of earthquake and fire and wind, stuff that is destroying the wilderness, destroying forests. And God's presence is right there. Maybe God is the storm in a way. And the psalm says we are in awe and wonder at this glory. When's the last time you were in awe? Or let's wonder together, what is awe? What is that experience like? It seems to me it starts with something that's unknown, something that we don't really understand, but that we are fascinated with. Something, as the text says, something glorious. But not only are we drawn to it, and maybe we feel joyful, but at the same time, fearful. There's a deep sense of respect with whatever we're witnessing. I wish for us many experiences of awe and wonder.
We're in awe and wonder in Give us your strength and peace. Give us your strength and peace. Awe and wonder, we're in awe and wonder in your glory. Awe and wonder, we're in awe and wonder in your glory. Your voice o'er the mighty waters, your voice in majesty, right now in the storm and earthquake. Give us your strength and peace. Give us your strength and peace. Awe and wonder, we're in awe and wonder in your glory. Awe and wonder, we're in awe and wonder in your glory. And wonder, we're in awe and wonder in your glory. Awe and wonder, we're in awe and wonder in your glory.
Well, because in my house, we believe that laughter is the best medicine, and because I also feel that being able to laugh when you're struggling with something heavy makes the burden of carrying it a little lighter, I'm going to begin with sharing my favorite meme from this week. Now, I know that I am not alone in being happy to say goodbye to the year 2020. And I know I'm not alone in expecting that after all that's happened, 2021 has got to be better. But then Wednesday happened. And I know I'm not alone in my feelings after the events of Wednesday. Seeing the halls of our nation's capital, the literal and symbolic heart of our democracy, being desecrated by an angry, riotous mob. I was frightened. I was angry. I was overwhelmingly saddened by it. And I was deeply grateful that, at least for now, calm has been restored and the Congress was able to complete its work and certify the election results. And in the wake of this event and the fallout from this momentous event in our nation's life, I find myself turning more and more to Scripture. I think some science-oriented progressive Christians, myself included, have a reluctance to turn to Scripture when we find ourselves contending with difficulties that are outside of our control. I think this might be because we generally do not read the Bible literally, and we don't really see it as God's little answer book. I know I'm not going to find the answers for my problems in the Bible. I certainly won't find the answer to heal our nation's divisiveness and our fragile democracy in the pages. But what I will find in Scripture, what I do find, are stories and songs of people who are struggling in life, just as I am. I find stories and songs of the awe and wonder of people experiencing God's presence and hearing God's voice. I can think of no better time to prayerfully turn to Scripture than when one is overwhelmed. In the Psalms especially, we find all the emotions I felt this week: fear and anger and sadness and gratitude. The Psalms are a microcosm of responses to the troubles of the world in this age or in any age. And though Psalm 29 was chosen for this Sunday long before the events of this week unfolded, it offered me two things I needed to hear this week. The first is, God is stronger than I am, and I can draw strength from God. And the other thing is this: God is speaking right now. And in order to hear God's voice, I have to quiet the noise of the world and figure out how to listen for God. Psalm 29, with its imagery of hearing God's voice in a storm, reminded me of a moment during the Oregon Coast pilgrimage I took during my sabbatical 2.5 years ago. As the group of pilgrims I was with hiked up and over Tillamook Head in a persistent rain, we encountered a giant fallen tree. Its exposed roots making a wall that towered over our heads. And we were just kind of in awe of the power that it must have taken to knock that tree down. And as we approached it, we all got very quiet, and we approached the wall of roots with great reverence, pausing to observe the tiny life forms clinging to the remains of the tree. We all felt that we were on holy ground, without any of us announcing it. In the quiet, dripping forest, I knew God was present, holding our lives. Scripture is full of stories, experiencing awe and wonder at the strength of God and hearing God's voice speaking. The psalmist who wrote Psalm 29 was awed by the power of a storm and heard God's voice in the thunder. The prophet Elijah, on the other hand, heard God speaking in the silence after the storm had passed. Moses experienced God and heard God speaking in the burning bush. And as he arose from the waters of his baptism, Jesus experienced God's presence in the form of a dove and heard God's voice saying, "You are my child, my beloved. With you I am well pleased." Friends, my prayer for us today and for this week is this: as we move through the days and weeks and months ahead, whether the days are stormy or sunny, may we receive the strength of God and hear God's voice calling to us above the noise of the world. And may we know that God is holding our lives. Would you sing with me? God is holding your life. God is holding your life. God is holding your life. We believe. God is holding your life. Yes, God is holding your life. God is holding your life. We believe.